Hey friends, welcome to Breaking the News Plus. The big news across the world today, obviously losing Pope Francis, died of a stroke the day after Easter Sunday. And I wanted to have a conversation with a gentleman named Lino Rulli. You may not know Lino by name, you may know him just as the Catholic guy on Sirius XM Radio Afternoons Drive Time. Lino, thanks for joining Breaking the News Plus.
This is exciting for me, believe it or not. I interned at KARE 11 back in 1991, and this is my first return back, so I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, I think that it's been enough time that you can be back with us at KARE 11. Lino, I don't know what your reaction was this morning when we learned that Pope Francis had died, but mine was honestly shock. I mean, we knew he wasn't well, but I thought he was in the clear. What were your reactions?
Well, my first reaction was, why does my phone keep going off in the middle of the night? Not necessarily a good sign, but I kept hearing my phone buzz, and I'm like, it's some idiot friend of mine. What is going on? So I finally looked over to see why do I have so many text messages? Mm-hmm. And it was all my friends based in Rome or people I know in Rome with one text, just the Pope died. And I was like you, I was just shocked, going, well, that's not even possible. I mean, he had double pneumonia a month and a half ago. If you would have told me 6 weeks ago the Pope died, I would have said, oh, yeah, didn't look good, did it?
Right.
But now he was poping. I was really, really just shocked by this whole thing. It's like a family member dying when, okay, they're older, but didn't expect it.
Right. Right. And you say family member, and I think that's an important thing to pick up on. For Catholics, the Pope is the Holy Father. This is more like a familial death. So for the non-Catholics watching this, explain the relationship of the Pope to Catholics.
So the word in Italian is papa, which isn't really translated as father, right? But is more like a dad or a daddy, like ciao papa. So in Italian, they're not even really called, he's not called Pope Francis as much as he's called Papa Bergoglio, which is his last name, Bergoglio. Mm-hmm. So like in Italy, it's just assumed it's a familial relationship. It's somebody you know. It's somebody who lives in your hometown, Rome being that town. And then for Catholics around the world, especially, I would say more in the 20th and 21st century than perhaps people living in the 1400s, around the world, thanks to the internet, thanks to news, thanks to social media, you can feel a closeness to him because anytime you want, you can go on an app, you can go on Twitter and there he is, or you can see him on Instagram and there, or not Twitter, whatever it's called. And then you can see him on Instagram and there he is. And the Pope is a part of your life at every single Catholic Mass, especially for people who are not Catholic, to realize we pray for our Pope by name at every single time like we gather together. So it's a big loss, even if you're not Catholic, it's a big loss because of the stage that he held in terms of just being the Bishop of Rome and the Pope of the Catholic Church.
Obviously, we just saw him yesterday meet with the Vice President of our country, meeting with dignitaries. I want to ask you this. So, in one sentence, the Washington Post said this about Pope Francis today. He was by far the most surprising Pope in modern history, and one of, if not the most consequential popes in modern history. Would you agree with those two phrases? And if so, why or why not?
I mean, I guess I wonder about consequential because we're just living here in 2025. And perhaps it's not fair to say consequential because, well, do you remember what happened in 1508 or what about the year 809? That was a big year. So I'm not completely positive about consequential. Now, very consequential to us. In terms of the papacy itself, and I loved Pope Francis, I got to meet him on several occasions, I'm a big fan, but it was a 12-year papacy out of 2,000 years.
Right.
It's tough to call any papacy consequential insofar as Pope John Paul II was Pope from 1978 to 2005. That was a consequential papacy. And 20 years later, I mean, I host a radio show, plenty of kids and teenagers listening. He had passed away before they were even born. They already feel like he was a saint of the past. Okay. So consequential, I like the Washington Post, but consequential, I think, we have to give it a century or two to see about consequence.
I'll check back with you in 100 years. How about surprising? Was he surprising?
He was a completely surprising Pope from the very name he took. I mean, I was on the air on Sirius XM in Rome for covering this, and when it was in Latin, he takes the name Francis, my first reaction with my co-host, we looked at each other, and although I didn't say it, I wanted to go, you can't say that. You can't do that. Like,
what? Why? What's surprising about it?
so you can't do that. It'd be like saying I'm Pope Jesus. You can't just go and take. So St. Francis of Assisi is one of the most revered saints in the history of the church. Of course, you could take any name you want. You could be Pope Doug. Anybody can take any name. But it was just a shocking name to take because you kind of go, well, we've got one of those. We've got a guy named Francis of Assisi the world already knows about. So from the very start, that was a big shock. A shock surprise, let me say. Another surprising thing he did when the world was all watching him on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, the crowds in St. Peter's Square are looking forward to, can't wait for his blessing. And before he gave his blessing and prayed for the people, he said, but would you bless me and pray for me first, and bowed his head in complete silence, which made for very awkward television and radio for the record. But it was so surprising to be like, I'm sorry, we're here to be blessed by the Pope, but he was showing that the church is a family, the church is a community, and he's the head, he's the dad, okay, but that he needs our prayers just as much as we need his prayers. That was a surprise, and that was him being Pope for like an hour.
That lends to that humility aspect people talk about with this Pope. And some people also describe him as divisive. Why?
Because he lives in the 21st century and everybody is divisive in the 21st century. I'm guessing me saying that will be divisive in the 21st century because, you know, popes who didn't live in the era of social media and YouTube and everything else that exists were able to do things, and nobody's able to do anything anymore. Now, that being said, I would say it's fair for his critics on the right, the conservatives, if we're going to use words like conservative and liberal, for his critics on the right, he went too far. For his critics on the left, he didn't go far enough. Then by definition, you're divisive because you don't even have one group on your side. You don't have like everybody on the right likes you or everybody on the left likes you. He didn't even have that. So I would say he was divisive in that way, but I don't know if it's not possible to be a leader and not be divisive.
Did it bother him? I mean, you met him 4 times. Did he care?
He never mentioned it to me. It'd be funny if that's what was eating at him when I saw him. But if he was like, Lino, I got to tell you about something. This is really annoying. Somebody on X complained about me. No, I think he really embraced it because I think basically for the way he came at it was the church should not be a comfortable place. Religion should not be a comfortable place. If anything that Jesus says is true, it should challenge you and not put you in one simple box where everybody, even on your team or your side, agrees with you. So I would be very uncomfortable with any kind of church leader, Catholic or not, religious leader, I guess I could say, who was uncomfortable with being criticized or who had thin skin. I would go, ooh, this is a very poor leader we've got if that's the case.
What direction? Because obviously from Pope John Paul to Benedict, Francis went in a different direction. Is that the direction of the Catholic Church as a whole now, or will it go back in a more conservative light?
Well, I think it depends on which places we're going to talk about where he was either more conservative or liberal or changing things or surprising things. So for a lot of the things that he did something that's a weird word called synodality, which is his way of saying he wanted to hear from people, whether they were Catholic or not. Where's the church going right? Where's the church going wrong? Where can the church meet you exactly where you're at? You know, it's one of those things. Now, if the next leader doesn't do that, would they be considered more liberal, let's say? More conservative, like going back to the way it used to be? Yeah. Or is that just the path forward in the 21st century? Is that if Catholicism wants to be relevant, is that its path forward? If Catholicism wants to be relevant, here's just a strange example, but Pope Francis every Holy Thursday would go and visit the prisons of Rome, and he would wash prisoners' feet. Now, washing feet is not a new idea. Jesus came up with it, and so popes have been washing feet for a very long time. Now, whoever the next pope is, next Holy Thursday, if he doesn't go to a prison next year, is that considered maybe more conservative? Is he going to do things the way popes in the past have done them or not? I think the next pope is up for some real challenges. Every pope could be up for a challenge, but because Pope Francis was so different in where he lived the cars he rode in. He didn't ride in the big Mercedes Benz with like the bulletproof glass. He rode in simple Fiats and Cinquecentos and things like this. That's going to be it. Ford Focus, there was a car he liked riding in. Now, is it going to be considered, ooh, we're going back to the past if we get bulletproof glass and Mercedes? And that it's little things like that that I think will define a papacy more than no popes really changing church teaching, quite frankly. So it's the little things that they do.
Some of the little things he did, I remember back in 2013, the infamous time where he said, "Who am I to judge about gay people?" And that was a shock heard around the Catholic world, just in terms of no pope has ever said that. That to me was different.
Yes.
And so the church, I guess the cardinals, right, decide this next iteration, whoever comes next, 13 days, 22 days, however long it takes. I've got about 30 seconds left. So if you had to bet today, what kind of pope comes next?
Well, probably a guy. So sorry, ladies.
There you go.
But the kind of pope that comes next will hopefully be the pope that follows Jesus. And that's what Pope Francis did. And is not afraid to follow Jesus, and I'm not upset to follow Jesus, and not afraid to upset people in following Jesus. And I think that's what Pope Francis did. And so the next pope better keep following Jesus, or we're going to be in a lot of trouble. That's simple, and yet makes complete and total sense. Lino Rulli, it's been a pleasure. You're going to Rome tomorrow, right? Yeah, leaving tomorrow. I coincidentally happen to be leaving tomorrow, but now my return flight's a little bit up in the air. Yeah, interesting time to be there. I'll hopefully check back in with you when you return. Thanks for joining me today. Rolling with my cough, doing the best I can here. But I appreciate it. I was going to cough in unity with you, by the way, but I don't know if that was the right. It's really, yeah, I know. It's serious. I appreciate you. Appreciate you so much. Thanks for joining us on Breaking the News Plus. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for having me.